So which state are you in?
I'm in Idaho.
Oh, okay. All right.
I have to go over here, go live over here. I went live over there. Okay. All right, we're going live. Hi, everybody. Come over here and hit reload. We should be live in the community. Just a second, and we'll have to reload it one more time. There we are. All right, we are live. There's a small delay between Facebook and StreamYard. So
Uh-huh.
whenever I go live, we're always like fooling around.
Well,
And we are
I use
actually
StreamYard
live.
as well, so well, I know how it works.
And I have a different computer screen that so I can open the community up so I can actually read the comments when people join us. In fact, let me tag everybody to everyone. We're live. And then maybe we can get some people to hop on and join us live. Otherwise, they can join us on replay. So I'm gonna I'm gonna let you pronounce your name because I don't want to screw it up. So
So
introducing.
yeah, so actually, my birth name is Dominica, but DOM Dom came to me when I was 19, and I chosen that as my artistic nickname, not really knowing what it means. My friend suggested that to me. I asked him what is DOM short for. He said Deo Optimo Maximo. And I asked him, what does it mean? And he said, well, it means that by being an artist and having the gift of creating, you are given the gratitude back to God. And at the time, I was actually raised as a Catholic.
Mhm.
It was very aligned with my faith then when I was 19. So I decided to choose the OM as a signature on every single painting I created. But it was only around 4 5 years ago when I was becoming a trans channeler, when I started to channel um, multi galactic councils. They actually told me to double check that the Optimo Maximo name, and it turned out that actually the Optimo Maximo means the greatest God, which at that time actually became even more aligned, taking into account what I'm now doing with women, which is guiding them back to the God self, to the divine self, and that's where the Dio Optimo came from.
I love that. It's beautiful. It's Latin, correct?
It is Latin, yes, it is, yes.
And your artwork reflects a little bit of the Catholicism influence in your life. At least it seems to me.
It would be really hard for me to say what does it truly reflect, and I
Mhm.
definitely never had any intention to create something specific. In fact, my art is very important in my life
Mhm.
because unknowingly, since I was creating, and that was probably since I was a child, I was actually usually going into creative process to detach myself from reality. We all go through different traumas, abuses, and things
Mhm.
like that. So for me, it was a coping mechanism. And for me to enter the state where I wasn't thinking and I was detaching myself was a very natural state. And I felt that every artist was doing that. But also around age 19, 20, when I was already quite successful and I was doing a lot of exhibitions back in Poland, my audience, my friends start to come to me and they said, don't you think that this painting actually just manifested? You just painted this person and this happened. And at that time, I was putting everything down to coincidence until the painting started to bring really huge prophecies and events into my personal life where I could truly paint a person and the same person from the painting would appear in my life,
Wow.
bringing bringing a specific very important karmic stories but also beautiful miraculous events. And And I realized that there is something more that I actually do than just creating a piece of artwork. And moving fast forward, when I lost my corporate job in 2013, and my son was just one, I decided that I would like to stay actually at home, be able to raise my child, and I took a leap of faith and decided to become a full-time artist. So just, sourcing income from my art. And when I dedicated myself fully to the art, that's when things really escalated, and the events were not only now speaking about my personal life, but collective events of the collective awakening. I was painting always in a way that I would sit in the front of a blank canvas, and I would just allow the creation to come through me. So that's why I say I never actually sketch anything. I never come with an idea what I would like to create. I was allowing the painting to be created through me. So I never know what I'm actually going to paint when I start. And when those events started to become so profound and my awakening also started, I start to seek answers. So eventually I was led to Marina Jacobi. I'm not sure if your audience or yourself heard of her. She's a quantum physics pioneer living in New York. And she also channels the Council of Nine. And I booked a session with her. I was waiting 6 months to see her. She's very, very busy. But I knew that if she's going to trans channel Council of Nine for me, she's going to be able to give me some answers. So she examined the painting, and she told me, forget that you are creating decorations for the walls. Through the process of complete disconnection and the bypassing of the subconscious mind, you've been connecting directly to the source energy, and you've been creating living holograms for new realities. She said that the energy within the paintings doesn't have energy of the density of planet Earth. It has a pure frequency of source, of pure unconditional love, and hence the potency of creating new events in my life. And as I was fully surrendering to the process, and there was no thinking, there was no logic involved, I was actually able to create really miraculous, godlike, divine events in my life. So that was a huge message for me. And I just decided to devote myself fully to dive deep into this magic of the unknown and allow the universe, the source, the God within us to create through me. And as I was doing and committing and learning, everything else started to unfold. So I start to trans channel, I start to have visions, I start to receive prophecies without even painting, which I was then passing on to the collective. I also opened portals, which are the paintings that I sent you, two of them, portals into different now timelines. So for example, I was able to open a portal within the painting to a timeline where Hathor, the divine feminine ascended master Hathor, lives. And as I connected to the consciousness of Hathor, she started to teach me how to heal the sacred womb space. And she told me I am now initiated to ask women to come and teach them, help them to heal the womb space specifically. This
This
painting
is
is
the image.
yes.
Okay.
So it's even the circle around her navel and the codes that maybe are not so visible just now around her navel. I channeled this painting. I never know what I'm doing. I'm just doing that intuitively. But when I sent the image of this painting to a dear friend of mine, Kelly Morgan, who is actually a sacred womb healer too, she messaged me back and she said, "Do you know what you just painted?" And I said, "Well, I have no idea, right?" I connected to a different now timeline, to the ancient, sacred wisdom. And she said that actually in ancient times, when women were gathering in temples and they've been initiated to the highest range of the high priestess, when they embodied all the knowledge and all the gifts that they are carrying, and we are carrying those gifts, by the way, within our wombs, they would have a tattooed symbols just like that around their navels. And that has been discovered through archive work where they've been uncovering the bodies basically of the high priestesses, and they've been mummified most of the times, but they uncovered, and you can actually find on the internet pictures of those tattoos being made around their navel. So again, without any knowledge of that, I brought this into my now timeline through the painting. So The paintings were almost like a funnel and connection directly to the source wisdom, to all that there is, all that there ever was created. And I managed to start sourcing that through my art, and the art was leading me through my awakening and towards becoming the divine feminine Christ leadership mentor within the temple and the sacred womb healer.
Wow. I don't even know where to go. This is so
Whenever you want.
powerful. Um, do you want to go through the other two images, or do you want to talk about your womb healing workshop that's coming up?
So I'm gonna maybe share a little bit more about the sacred womb space, our womb, and if you want, you can flip the images. They all are. This is a portal as well, opened portal, and the third one of the warrior was actually a painting created with Archangel Raphael and Archangel Michael. They've been assisting me during creation of this portrait. And if you close up around the halo, there are codes, which I'm usually channeling. There's like a light language written around the halo that is also activating our subconscious mind. So the spirit said that a person who has this painting or a copy of this painting, all the person needs to do is to look at the codes, doesn't need to understand them, because they are penetrating the subconscious mind and they are triggering the necessary changes within the human structure that are required for the ascension purposes. So I channel those codes. They're usually active within every single artwork. And people who are buying my paintings, or I also have portrait commission open. So you can come and you can commission your highest potential timeline hologram. So I have a lot of women coming to me requesting to have the hologram, not the painting, but the frequency of their highest potential timeline created, channeled. And what happens with those portraits is that once they are interacting with the frequency of their version that already exists within a different now timeline, their own molecular structure starts to respond to the frequency of the painting. And because obviously there is a difference between those two frequencies, the painting will be triggering everything that needs to be healed, released, let go of, in order for the actual person step into the frequency of the highest potential timeline, which we all aim for the higher self. So when I do this kind of work, I do the portal, I create the hologram, and then I'm assisting them through the healing that the painting is, triggering them. And we go together on their own through their own individual ascension path with the assistance of this channeled work.
Okay, so it's 11:11 right now.
Is it? There you go. And it's
Right.
11:11 on her arm.
And 11:11 on her arm.
That's
Okay, I'm sorry.
powerful.
I just had to point that out.
So so this is a very complex work, but I'm really happy I can combine and unify my artistic abilities. I finished to art school, so I would be really upset if I wouldn't be utilizing this gift, anywhere with my spiritual mentoring and teachings. And going back to the sacred womb healing, which also came to me, as I said, through the painting, Hathor as a divine feminine ascendant master. She's a very powerful being living in a different now timeline, and she's also a very tough teacher. So when she initially invited me to enter the etheric temple, where she will be giving me the principles of how to enter other women's womb space, which we talk about we speak about spiritual womb space. I was literally just completely overwhelmed with how much has been taken away from us as women. The wisdom, the knowledge, the power that resides within our wombs has been taken away from us, throughout the patriarchal system, when so much trauma was imposed on our sacred space through rapes, through different forms of tortures. different forms of horrific abuses, that when we incarnate, and when we incarnate, our little wombs within our mother womb, they are already actually taking a template and imprint of all at least 7 generations of women before us. So our little wombs, they are actually taking an imprint of most of the times just trauma. And when we are then developing as, young women, and then we are going into our adulthood, the access to this wisdom, the access to the pleasure, the access to our divinity, to our throne, to our temple is usually none. And we also exercise usually sexuality, which is a sacred connection of two energies, in the most very basic, if not often also animalistic way. So when Hatters start to teach me about a completely different perception of the power within our womb, that our wombs have actually their own consciousness, that they actually have their own name, that actually our wombs may be much older than the soul is, that actually we may be here experiencing ourselves as human being, but the womb may come from a completely different race. So I have clients who have Arcturian wombs, Pleiadian wombs. They have different etheric devices, extraterrestrial devices implanted within their wombs. We do amazing work with that. I teach them how to activate those gifts, those powers. But most of all, the first thing we do, we are going through a powerful clearing and healing of the womb. So we are releasing those 7 generations. And it is so beautiful, because usually when there is such a powerful release, the ancestors are coming during those sessions, and you can see them being released, and you can see tears, and there's so much crying, and just this freedom, and then the opening of the heart, because our third eye, the heart and the womb, are just in a constant connection. At least they should. I see, I feel, I create. And even though we are working on spiritual womb, we are releasing traumas, we are releasing sexual abuse, but we are also releasing physical illnesses. And I have women, a lot of women that come to me with fibromyalgia, which is often connected, to the wounding between the feminine masculine energies and the traumas within the ancestral line. I had one young girl who came to me at the age of 27, and she said to me, at the age of 19, I've been diagnosed with the premature ovaries failure. And I was really, really a little bit stressed. But then again, Hathor told me, you're not going to get a client that you are not ready for, right? So when she came to me, I started to the clearing. And when I start looking at her ovaries, I see that the ovaries look like calcium almost, they're dead. There is no life in those two organs where there should be, the initiation, ignition of life. So I start to ask her womb consciousness, what happened here? And she explained to me that the client killed the ovaries out of anger and guilt for the abuse that actually happened to her during the childhood, but impacted all family to a point that the family fell apart. So when we started to release that guilt, that anger, this disagreement for what has happened, also understanding why she has chosen this kind of experience and lesson, she came back to me after 2 weeks for session 2, because normally it's like 5 sessions that we do. And she said to me, my period is back after 8 years. So it was a powerful work. Sometimes I have women, and also please do not be scared. It is very, very normal. We are living, in a spiritual world, really. There's a lot of spirit attachments, or even, demonic attachments that are specifically aiming for the womb, because this is the cosmos, this is the cosmos within us, and they want to feed on our power. So we need to remove those as well. And Hathor always stands there, and she will just push me into those difficult cases. But it's amazing. And one of the things that Hathor and Mother Mary told me when usually they assist me as my mentors is, go and speak about this wisdom, and that every single woman can reclaim their power and their throne within their wombs, there's a big need for awareness and this connection that one each every single woman should reclaim for themselves. So this is why I'm organizing those free master classes, and we also end this master class with a powerful journey through the womb consciousness, connecting to the wisdom of the womb consciousness. And the closest one will be happening on Saturday and on Monday, which I'm going to post the links for it underneath this broadcast. So everyone that wants to join will be given the Zoom link, and we will meet as a circle. And usually I am being assisted by a mentor. Most recent one was assisted by Mother Mary, for example, and she was connecting us through the womb to also our heart space, to compassion for ourselves, and it's always beautiful. So if anyone feels a call, and you've been seeing maybe on your social media messages like sacred womb healing or womb circles, things like that, it means that the matrix is slowly showing you this is your path, and you are more than welcome to be my guest and join us on those healing journeys.
That sounds amazing. And I do
Beautiful.
want to point out that we're not just talking about a physical womb, we're talking about the womb space.
Yes,
So
what's
even if you may have lost your womb along the line for whatever reason, you're still welcome to join these powerful workshops where you can get healing. Just because
absolutely.
it's physically not there doesn't mean that it's spiritually been
Absolutely.
removed.
That's very, very true. It's not about the physical womb being in your body. It's about the etheric womb within you. It's about your etheric temple within you and the space that holds the memories.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Wow. So powerful. I,
it's
I'm
beautiful.
my mind goes through all of the women that I've known over the years, and I've known a lot of them, and the different physical things that they've had going on. And your story about the woman who healed her ovaries is so powerful.
I mean, it truly shows there is no limitations. I mean, if you go very far on your awakening spiritual journey, you eventually come to a point of awakening when you realize you never left home. You realize that the glitch in the matrix, the separation, is the reason why you are actually experiencing this physical world. And when you start truly embracing the truth that this is a dream that just feels so damn real, and we've been programmed to believe in so many limitations, but there is none, that you are an infinite being, a field of unconditional, so powerful force, and you start letting go of Mr. Logician and allowing this unconditional, miraculous energy to be fully activated, your divine DNA to be fully activated instead of the carbon based one, you really can experience miraculous healings in your life. It's like Jesus in his time, he knew the truth. He knew that the flesh is an illusion in a way. And he knew that he could perform those instantaneous healings and miracles because he could see through the veil. He knew the truth that we are all still being at home. And the reason why we are experiencing this dream is because at certain point our minds choose to believe in separation, and that's when the ego was born and everything else separated itself. So it's a beautiful experience, but I think we are also brave enough already to start actually shifting the perception and the awareness, so we all can give ourselves a chance to walk the path of Yeshua or any other, ascendant masters who knew the truth.
You were talking about the womb having its own consciousness,
Yes.
which also reminded me of thoughts that I've had over the it's really only been over the last year or so, that individual cells in our body are actual living beings,
Yes.
and we're just a collective. Each individual human is animal, everything is a collection of a colony of different beings. And sometimes wonder if each of those beings don't have their own consciousness. So, like your liver, it's a community of cells with its own consciousness, and and we have an overarching consciousness that governs what happens to each of these individual cells. It makes it makes as individuals of the collective, the overarching consciousness of the collective that is you,
Yeah.
it gives you so much more responsibility for what's going on in your body and what you're bringing into the collective to nourish it or not nourish it.
Yes, I mean the topic of taking responsibility, I think, is so hugely important on our awakening path because before, when we believed in a total separation and our ego could make us point out, you are the one that, did this and you are the badass and all of that. Whereas now we know that all we are experiencing within the reality that we create moment to moment is us. Every single animal, every single plant, every single aspect, every single pen, every single object in your house speaks a story about you. And at this point, if you really want to ascend, there is no more space of being in your victimhood, which our ego absolutely loves. Yeah, the sufferer, the victim. There is just a space for taking responsibility of the frequencies that we hold within us and what we do to ourselves. And this is where, for example, forgiveness also becomes really, really important because the as bad as it will still sound for many people, and it was really difficult for me to accept that, the worst abuse that we experience in our past, the worst experiences we experience, because within the subconscious mind there is a deep guilt that we left home, there is a deep fear that God will not want us back, there is a deep conviction that God actually wants to punish me, and it's all in the subconscious, this dark room, and the only reason that we are actually experiencing those difficult situations is because it's the reflection of our subconscious mind, where the ego just thrives, and just wants us to go through the pain, wants us go through the suffering, through anger and all of that. And unless we are not learn how to gain the humility and start embracing this awareness that it is all of us, that somewhere at the beginning of time we went through this initial, which is actually for all of the humans the core wound that is so suppressed, and we can't remember that the initial core wound we all carry is the separation from God, is the separation from home.
Mm-hmm.
And based on that wound there is this separation and the suffering and everything else, and the forgiveness that we should learn how to fully um, process through our heart space, not through the mental space, just for the sake of forgiving, is the most powerful tool that will lead us towards sovereignty and freedom. So, for example, I'll give you just an example on that I experienced in my life that was a huge breakthrough for me. I repressed completely into my subconscious mind to a point of not remembering anything. A very horrific abuse that happened at the age of 7 that led to a near-death experience. And I didn't have any recollection of that. I wasn't told about it by my parents. It was just complete blank until I start to attract clients with something that they experience, and I start to question, why is it that I am attracting clients that I don't know how to help because I never experienced that, right? But bit by bit the spirit was leading me towards the truth, and when the truth eventually was released to me when I surrendered control. When I surrendered control, I realized it felt like the control was like a heavy stone, and underneath the stone, there's this hidden truth about what happened to me when I was a child. And Jesus, Yeshua, who is just, I feel really, really connected, like many of us, was coming to me in channelings, and he was just saying, just give me that control. Just give me that control. And I didn't understand. And with tears in my eyes, I finally gave him the control. And when he took it, the stone was lifted, the memory came back from the subconscious. I was just shocked because I start to remember actually that, I had the memory right after. I was telling about what happened to my mother. I remember that she didn't believe me, but for most of my life, 30 years, it was repressed, completely repressed. And then he came to me and he said, we now need to go through the forgiveness process. And he explained to me that, in the dynamic of the abuser and the victim, which is just a label, he said that unless we fully forgive the so-called abuser, fully release, and to a point that we see him as innocent, he said the dynamic of the abuser will be alive within you, and you will somehow abuse yourself exactly the same. And this is, the proof of the interconnection, oneness, and everything, and how the universe within us wants to teach us how actually um, forgiveness is important. He also allowed me to enter the body of the abuser, which is something that Hathor was also teaching me in terms of bilocation. So he said to me, enter the body of the abuser and experience his emotions. I did not realize how this event also destroyed the abuser, and I also felt compassionate for the abuser. I was crying a lot. It was really difficult to process everything, but it helped me to understand the depth of the forgiveness. And then, through the course of miracles, through direct channelings of Jesus, Yeshua, I've learned that, the abuse that happened to me came from a deep guilt and neediness to punish myself, destroy myself, kill myself for the sin that I committed when I left home. So, in fact, it was me abusing myself. And then Hathor came in and she showed me that I have a blockage in my solar plexus, which is, the throne of the ego, right?
Mhm.
And she told me that unless we all unify the victims and the abusers, and she showed me scenes of little children being abused, of women being abused by men, because I had a big masculine wounding in me. And she said to me, unless she showed me those visions, but every single person, the abuser, child, woman, was me, my body. And she said,
Mhm.
see this, unless you learn to see all of it as one and forgive and have nothing but compassion, because there's just love or a calling for love, you will not free yourself, Dom. You will not free yourself from what has happened in the past. So that was huge. But, it brought me literally to my knees. And the way Jesus, Yeshua comes and he teaches, and Mother Mary's often assisting, if we only detach and disconnect ourselves from all this external reality and listen to our heart, this wisdom, and everything else is already within us. And I can honestly say that if someone craves sovereignty, if someone craves honest, authentic life and full, pure connection to oneself, the forgiveness and the compassion are the two components that will take you there. Without it, if you choose to stay in a separation, if you are struggling and you still choose ego, which we all do, and it's fine because there is no judgment,
Mhm.
we will be suffering somehow. We will and we will be brought to our knees. Yeshua came to me one day and he literally just said, not with anger or judgment, but he said, you are still scared, I'm going to humiliate you somehow, but I came here to reclaim you, not humiliate you. I had a huge fear of humiliation that came also from this incident, of being stripped down. And there was huge wound that I was carrying, not knowing that I was having it. And the path to sovereignty and the path to full liberation of one's heart, one's soul, is through this compassion, forgiveness, and ultimate love for oneself, because all there is you. There's just one us here, just one us.
And we're all connected.
Yes. So it's as you said, our body is like a community. It's all one. The consciousness of the womb, it's maybe I would say it's slightly different, because this is the connection to the cosmos. This is where all the wisdom resides, right? It's like Akashic record temple. I also know from Dolores Cannon teachings, because I did her QHHT Academy, that the cells in our body respond to our voice like the voice of God. You want to heal yourself, speak to your cells. They all have the consciousness that will listen to you. They will respond to you. Everything responds to us. So yeah, there's a lot of truth. It's all one unit. Yeah.
Everything exists and it doesn't.
Yes, exactly. I agree. Yeah.
Thank you so much for joining me today, Dom.
You're very
I'm
welcome. Thank you.
I hope that you will put the link to your community in the comments and also to your workshops coming up. This has
I
been
will do.
really an interesting conversation.
Thank you so much for having me, Jill. I wish you all a beautiful day.
You too.
Thank you. Thank you, Jill.